You're watching CN2 News. Two Chester County principals wanted to make a difference during the pandemic. They started Create and Educate LLC to help educators and parents during some tough times. They're focusing on literacy and leadership. CN2's R.E.A.L.L. Jackson has more on how they're helping the community.
Create and Educate, we are a consulting firm that works with educators as well as entrepreneurs. So with the side where we're working with educators, we offer professional development on literacy as well as implicit bias. We work with leaders and leadership teams to help improve schools.
They've been surviving pandemic education by offering tips for school leaders, teachers, and parents.
We really want to see kids through the trajectory, graduating from high school, ready to go to college or to start a career or to go into the military.
Create and Educate has multiple community partners in the area that read books to children weekly.
Since biblical times, women were often overlooked and slighted for their contributions. This sculpture, designed by Black female sculptor Augusta Savage, was named Lift Every Voice and Sing to honor the Black National Anthem. The organizer of the event, however, saw fit to rename her sculpture the Harp. This is just one example of how the voices of Black women have been silenced in history and sometimes even now. In some spaces, the presence of Black women is so non-existent, it almost makes us invisible. Speaking of invisibility, the Say Her Name campaign and the reason why we know the name and the account of Breonna Taylor was because of the social injustices that were happening to Black women that weren't being discussed in the media until activists brought them to the forefront. That's why Dr. Tammy Taylor and I, co-founders of Create and Educate, decided to host our series on the impact of Black women leaders. Prior to this series, we hosted a series on Africana womanism that explains how in the African American community, women and men are in this struggle together. They are compatible with one another and support one another. They are a complement to one another in the fight for social equity. Our framework, Create and Educate's 5 super strengths to real resilient Black women leaders, will break down how respect, excellence, accountability, literacy, and leadership builds that resiliency. So join us this Saturday in the R.E.A.L. Academy at 10:30 Eastern Standard Time. We will be discussing cultivating the excellence of Black women leaders. Great Saturday, everyone. Thank you for joining us in the R.E.A.L. Academy. I am Dr. Sheka Houston. You're on mute, Tammy.
Sorry. Good morning, everybody. I am Tammy Taylor, and we are super excited that you guys are joining us this morning. So happy Saturday morning.
Definitely. And we are on episode 85 of the R.E.A.L. Academy, sponsored by Create and Educate. We are a educational consulting and literary firm. We specialize in professional development, but we cultivate resiliency in schools with our school turnaround principals, leaders with our coaching program, teachers as trainers, children through our Knowledge Academy programs, and women leaders, which we are discussing today. So we do all of those things through our framework that we mentioned in the promo video, Create and Educate's 5 super strengths, which is the R.E.A.L. way. And that's our acronym that you see at the top, the R.E.A.L. Academy. And that stands for respect, excellence, accountability, literacy, and leadership. So today, in honor of Women's History Month, we are going to, and also we're highlighting the series that you heard in the promo, the impact of Black women leaders. We're going to be talking about cultivating that excellence in Black women leaders. And if you tuned in last week, you heard that we were a part, or we were part of that national writing project out in Augusta, Georgia. And Jason Reynolds, he was the keynote speaker, and it really just inspired us. One of the things that he stated was, there is nothing like a confident Black woman, but at the same time, that same sight is also frightening to people. So I thought that was very, very profound for him to make that statement. And he is, if you're not familiar with Jason Reynolds, he's a New York Times bestselling author. We use a lot of his books with our students because of the way that they're written. The students love his stories and the way he tells them authentically. They can relate to the things that happened in his life, and just hearing his whole story and his premise for how his writing took place and his journey. It was a really inspiring thing to hear.
It was, and he's a best-selling New York Times best-selling author many times over. And the books, as Sheka said, of course, I didn't know before going down to hear him that all of his books are about events from his life and stories that he has lifted from the experiences that he's had as a person. And he was very, as Sheka said, impactful. But one of the things that stuck out to me, and I love the Black woman quote, but he also said that we should never allow other people to tell our stories. We need to tell our own stories, and the power in that message is we all have them. So we have to figure out, what our story is, and make sure that we're willing to share that for the good of the cause, which is what he's doing. It was a fabulous conference, though, because we attended some really good sessions, and I look forward to following the National Writing Project, because we made some really, really neat connections with some of the folks who are very involved in that. So we're excited about the opportunities that lie ahead. And we met Dr. Harper
Yes.
from our very own hometown, which Chester was very well represented at the conference. So it was a real neat experience, and we're very thankful for the opportunity to have had the experience with them.
Definitely. She did a phenomenal job, and everyone involved did. I was glad that they were able to bring it to this part of the country for us to be able to partake and participate and be able to hear such inspiring words from him. So today's topic, as you've heard, we're talking about cultivating that excellence in Black women leaders and leaders in general, because we know that more than Black women tune in, but we're specifically speaking to it from that lens as Black women leaders. Last week, we talked about that first part of our acronym, which was respect, and how you have to know yourself. You have to have that respect to know yourself, know the people that you're working with in order to cultivate certain things within yourself. So today we're looking at excellence. So when you're defining excellence in general, if you look it up, it just says a quality of being outstanding or good. And excellence as a leader, and specifically as a Black woman leader, for me, my excellence was my ability to inspire others to be great, to be the best versions of themselves. I also was great at being a visionary, seeing things that were not as though they should be, and helping people to buy into that, or for them to see it as well. I used to always talk to my students through, and my staff members through our town hall meetings, and so on through my daily interactions. with people, with everyone in the school. That's how I was able to kind of keep that pulse on what was happening with people, what was going on, what people were dealing with, or how they needed to be inspired, what messages did they need to hear, because it was important for me to be able to do that in order for me to be able to help them see the things that I needed them to see for us to do the things that we needed to do. And so a lot of times as a person and as a leader, these are things that you have to be able to define for yourself. Um, and cultivating that excellence in others, and specifically we're talking about Black women leaders here today, you first have to make sure that they are aware of who they are and that they're confident with who they see in their mirror. Principal Kafele always refers to that mirror, and that mirror is very important. You have to know what is in there, but also be comfortable with what's looking back at you. And excellence does not mean that you are excellent in all things. You have to figure out what those things are. And even if you're not, you don't portray excellence by imitating other people. When you figure out what that is for you, you portray that for you. And then in the areas where you feel like you're not excellent, that's where you either build those areas for yourself or you surround yourself as a leader with people who are excellent in those areas. And I know, Tammy, you have been on a great journey this week with excellence. So I
Yes.
can't wait to hear what you have to tell us about that too.
Yes. So thank you, because that's a great lead into um, this week. I've been on what I'm calling my own personal pilgrimage, and I do use pilgrimage very lightly as the term, because I recognize that a pilgrimage is a journey through life. But what was special about my journey this week was it was a journey with 13 other people, and 14 people actually at times, who were experiencing the same personal growth and self-awareness that I was experiencing. And during that time, we were able to just focus on who we are, like who I am, and that general awareness of why I am the way that I am, and why I lead the way that I lead. And since we're talking about excellence, we just want to revisit, and I just want to share something that Jason Reynolds said last week when we heard him. He said that excellence is a habit. And I just encourage us to make sure that we know that, like, we need to take that and make it foundational to who we are. Like, we want that to become a part of our belief system, because no matter what you think, like no matter what I think about myself, no matter what anybody else says about me, or what anybody thinks, or no matter what the report card says, or any other data point, my value remains intact. And I loved when he was talking about how um, he said, even when he got average grades and his performance seemed average, he was still excellent because he has always been who he is. And I think that that's important for us as Black women, Black men, people in general, to just bear in mind that we are who we are, and we cannot get stuck in the muck of what we think about ourselves or what other people think about us that does not match that standard that we know is there. And as you can see, this quote says, don't focus on your goals, instead focus on your habits that will take you to them. It's always you versus you. And that also was a part of my experience this week, because I was able to lean into myself with these amazing other people who I shout out this morning to all my folks from SLEI, it was an incredible experience. But leaning into me, I learned a lot about me and again, why I am the way that I am. This whole experience, I can say, was the epitome of excellence. So when we talk about excellence this morning, we're not generalizing because excellence has to begin within you. It has to begin with who you are, and that measuring stick, as you can see here, is you. It's always you. Sheka talked about your you being you and not trying to be someone else. So the measuring stick is always going to need to be you. You cannot worry about what the chatter is saying or what the background noise is. You have to be able to focus on yourself. And I learned from a colleague this week, another thing that is resonating with me is that in order for me to truly lead in an excellent way, for me to be there for my staff and be really able to show up in an excellent way, I have to first be able to secure my own mask before helping others. And it's just like on an airplane. They tell you, make sure you secure your own oxygen before you try to assist the people that are around you. That's important and impactful because until you are able to really, really take care of who you are, then you are not in any condition to help other people. And Sheka talked about that mirror that we need to look in. We need to look into the mirror, but what we also need to do is look beyond exactly what's showing up. When we look in the mirror, sometimes we still are masked with who we are. Look beyond what you're seeing, and you have to take that to that next level of looking in that mirror at the reflection that's looking back at you, but also take it to the level of your heart. Like, where do you feel yourself showing up? And that took us to a whole other level of truly, really being mindful of what self-care is all about and not turning self-care into something that's stressful, but really taking the time to take care of you. And then this is the other thing that I've learned about myself. I cannot truly walk in excellence if I'm bogged down. And that's a whole powerful part of the experience. If I'm carrying the weight of the world, I'm going to have to release that. And you see this visual here. That's too much for any one person to carry. I've got to release and unpack the backpack because if I don't, I'm going to be dragging around weight that is not intended for me. And Sheka, if you show that next picture, this is a powerful image of what happens when we are filling our backpacks with weights and those cares that come from other people or the chatter that gets in your own mind. Sometimes you have to be able to unpack that bag and let that go in order for me to be my best self. And if I'm going to be the best version of me, I have to be free and not weighted down. And I was telling I love this brought this out in the training. One of my colleagues who was there with me said, it might have been the teacher who told me we were having a discussion, and he said something about Erykah Badu's Bag Lady. And I thought, that is the perfect verse to say how this really, really should be received, because the very first verse, Erykah says, "Bag lady, you gonna hurt your back dragging all them bags like that. I guess nobody ever told you all you must hold on to is you, is you, is you." So this morning, we're just encouraging everybody to look inside you to find who you are and do some just reflection on why you are who you are and what that means to you. And any weight that you have that doesn't belong to you, you need to let that go and just kind of be able to be the best you can be, showing up in an excellent way. Because like Erica Badu says, as she goes on through the song, one day all those bags are going to get in your way. And what you don't want is for those bags to trip you up. So you have to pack light. And light might mean letting go of some of the things that seem super important to you at this moment. But this is the thing that I want to make sure everybody knows. We were not allowed to have electronics. This was like a time you don't get to use your phone. We were with each other until 9:30, 10:30 at night. And the whole message in that was, when I came back to school yesterday, school was still standing. Everybody was still doing what school did. I, with my excellent self, was gone the whole week, and nothing stopped because I wasn't there. And
Right.
the awareness of, it's okay, like you're fine.
And sometimes, Tammy, releasing those bags as a leader means that you have to be transparent with your staff. Sometimes you have to let them know, hey, this particular thing is going on. And like you said, take off that mask of this desire to want to be the all strong image to everybody, because you do want to
Yes,
appear that way. Because people are human and people do respect transparency. So,
they do.
the notion of perfection and those types of things, no one is perfect. People respect transparency. People understand that things happen. So, the more transparent you can be about things, the better. And that stuff that you're carrying around, principals really do carry everybody's stuff. Sometimes we have to normalize making sure that we are talking to somebody to release some of that stuff, whether it be your therapist or, a trust mate. Of course, you don't want to be telling everybody's business around the school. Most of the things
Oh
that
yeah.
are confidential. So, of course, things with your therapist would be confidential, but we have to normalize those practices too. It's a part of self care for me to talk regularly with a counselor. There's nothing wrong with that. Everyone, as my sister always says, everyone has mental health. So that's a part of that self care as well.
It is. And that release is a very powerful piece of coming to terms with who you are, and the realization of sometimes the weight that is placed on us, we place on ourselves. Like,
Hmm.
my expectation of myself isn't always the way that other people views who I am or what I am capable of, and ever strong. And the other part of that is you also learn that with the strength and just being there, and I'm the leader and I have to get this done, and it's going to be a reflection of me if this isn't
Hmm.
perfect. All of that kind of is just and an afterthought when you have gotten to a place where you can think clearly, and that
Hmm.
clarity of thought helps you to come to terms with being free to be me. Like, I measure up, and my value remains intact no matter what. I can give things to other people and allow them to do that. That delegation is a part of leadership and showing up as a
Hmm.
good leader. So I think that it is very important for us to take the time to really go deep within ourselves and um, connect with who you are. And this experience, as I said before, helped me to be able to connect with some other people. I don't fool with anybody. And I can tell you this is like, that's just who I have always been. But you start to see, like, you see yourself in other people. And I'm sure
Mhm.
other people can see themselves in you, because we're all really that same person, because we all have the best interests of our children at the forefront of the work that we do. So I say hello to if any of y'all are looking at this. But it was a wonderful experience and life changing. Like I cannot be the same leader anymore.
That's awesome.
It was.
Well, we hope that you all garnered something from this. Next week, we will be talking about accountability. So, if you're interested in any of our coaching or mentoring programs, just go to our website, fill out the contact form, and we will get tuned in with you. Tune in next to Principal Kafele's page. He has a wonderful guest that is coming on, and also Josh and Dean on Sundays, and Principal Hurt came on. He's back on Saturdays now, so he was on right before us, and Dr. Roz on Tuesdays, and Coach Williams. And as a part of what we're talking about with self-care, we have a Facebook group, Fit Minds and Fit Bodies, that is really talking about that health and wellness. And we have an active group that really tunes in every day, and we hold each other accountable with our health and wellness. So have a great rest of your Saturday, everyone, and we will see you
I
next
got
Saturday. Thank
Have
you.
a wonderful Saturday. And I'm shouting out, my mom had a birthday yesterday, St. Patrick's Day. So happy birthday to my mom, belated.
Yes, happy birthday.